Hello, we are continuing with Deepak Chopra's 7 spiritual laws. I hope you have been listening closely and understand each of these laws as we are presenting them to you, because it is so important in your spiritual life to understand them. I really think that Deepak is brilliant at what he has done with this little book, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And today we want to talk about karma, much misunderstood. You know, everybody says, well, karma is a bitch, you know, all of those things. Well, karma is not an eye for an eye. I know that in biblical circles, that's what the Old Testament says, but it's not that way at all. In fact, karma is repeating patterns. That's what it is. It's repeating patterns. And so you may have been in your life repeating patterns over and over again. You may have been repeating patterns from your parents' lives. You may have been repeating patterns from your grandparents' lives. It's like alcoholism, how it travels through families, right? Somebody's an alcoholic, and then it dots through the generations, and that is part of a karma, because your soul is choosing to come into that family to learn something about addiction in this lifetime, and perhaps to stop the generational patterns yourself, and to make sure that your children also stop those generational patterns. It can be with anything. It can be with poverty, it can be with violence, it can be with molestation, it can be in any way a directed karma from generational patterns, a repeat of energy over and over and over again. So I want to talk to you a little bit about my karma to explain it, but let's go over this law first, and then we'll explain it just a little bit better. So karma is the eternal assertion of human freedom. Our thoughts, our words, and our deeds are threads of the net we throw around ourselves. And so that's a quote of understanding how karma works. We kind of have all these webs of energy that come between us as human beings. We attract each other karmically in ways in which we don't recognize. Okay, so for example, my mother was a child of an alcoholic simply because her grandfather lived with her mother and father, and he was an alcoholic. But back in those days, understanding child of an alcoholic was not as prevalent as it is in today's world, because psychology back then was much different. It's not the way we understand psychology and have so much reading material and understand it through everything that we have through social media and so on. Back then it was just a dirty little secret, right? She used to step over her grandfather when she was on a date and said, never mind him. And so then she married my father, who was a World War II vet. He was in the South Pacific, and he suffered from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD and alcoholism vibrate in the same way, right? They vibrate the same way. So they were a match made in heaven, because she has a vibration of a child of an alcoholic, and he had the vibration of somebody that had post-traumatic stress disorder, and they had 4 girls. When I got married, my first husband was a child of an alcoholic. That's the generational karma. His father could barely keep down a job. We used to find bottles hidden in the bushes when we were playing croquet in his yard. So that's an example of how the generational patterns work, okay? The law of karma is both action and consequence of that action. Now, I think we always think that karma is bad, but there are good karmas, there are consequences of acting in a good manner also that creates good karma for you too. You know, it's interesting, I have people who've had a lot of karmic issues in their lifetime, like one thing after another, after another, after another, that's been so hard on them, and they say, well, I must have been a terrible person in a past life. Not necessarily, which we will go into a little bit more as we go along. If you've decided to embrace a lot of karmic energy, a lot of negative karma in this life, it doesn't mean you were a bad person in a past life. It might just mean that you decided to take on a whole lot of stuff in this one so you can hurry up your evolution of working through your karmic profile so you can ascend like Jesus did a little bit sooner. So most of us have become bundles of conditioned reflexes. This is explained like Pavlov's dogs, right? Because of our conditioning, we forget that we're making choices. Now remember, guys, that your subconscious mind is what makes you blink, makes you breathe, and makes you digest, right? But you don't realize that you're blinking or breathing or digesting unless you get something in your eye or learning to put contact lenses in, or if you get a cold and you can't breathe, or you drive past a dairy farm and it stinks, or if you're getting a tummy ache and you're not digesting right, you have indigestion, then you realize those things happen. But when none of that is occurring, it's happening for you automatically. You're just breathing and blinking and digesting automatically. This is the way of your subconscious mind. So your soul chooses your mom and your dad for a reason. You know, I am assuming that you all can look at your own family background and see different types of karma that have come across the generations. And you have to understand why your soul chose that. Maybe, again, it's to learn and understand duality on this planet. Duality really meaning separation from God, rather than oppositions like left, right, up, down, male, female, ego, spirit. But for all intents and purposes, when we're talking about karma, we're going to make it about duality, that the planet Earth is third dimension in its frequency, and we're anchored here by our egos, even though we're longing to get back to our spirit. And there is a constant battle of ego and spirit, the proverbial devil on one side, angel on the other, that we talk about, that represents some of that karmic profile and what we're supposed to be learning while we're on the planet. So you want to make sure that you're looking at your generational patterns and seeing the consequences of your actions, but also actions of those before you. And it doesn't always create cause and effect immediately, but it's basically what karma means, is cause and effect. Karma is the action of conscious choice making, as well as the subconscious frequency from your soul and subconscious mind that chose what you were supposed to be learning on planet Earth. I will remind you that your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, and your spirit are like a corporation in your body. Your subconscious mind and your spirit are silent partners. They're so silent that you don't even know that they're there, but they're the money men. They hold the bottom line. So you have to look at all of you, body, mind, spirit, subconscious mind, generational patterns, all of you, to understand your own karmic profile, okay? Now, you have to witness the choices that you're making when you're making them. I mean, you know, sometimes you may be just, say, a talker. Maybe you're just one of those kind of people that can't keep a secret. Maybe you're just one of those kind of people that talk about other people all the time. And you're not even witnessing that you're making a conscious choice to, psst, 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 did you know this happened to this person? Did you know that was that person, or whatever? You're not realizing or recognizing how much karma you're making when you're doing that kind of thing, because that's out of integrity, right? If you're not consciously witnessing, is it still karma? Yes, it's still karma. But the idea is to consciously witness what you're doing. I mean, if you set out to steal something, it's a pretty big conscious choice. If you set out to talk smack about somebody, it may be coming from your subconscious training from when you were a kid. For example, in my family, there was something called triangulation, meaning that us kids were triangulated with each other, that, you know, mom kind of had favorites and dad kind of had favorites, and they talked about each other. Mom and dad talked about each other inappropriately, and mom would talk about one of the other sisters inappropriately, and it was just a big triangulation. So sometimes you're trained that way from your subconscious mind, and you're triangulating people without even realizing that you're doing it, even though it's inappropriate. But again, the older you get, the wiser you should get. And as you continue to have maybe friendships fall out or other things because of that kind of behavior, you should look at what that karma is and make a decision to release yourself from that karmic profile. Okay, so that would be Pavlov's dog, meaning that you are trained that way rather than that conscious choice of going out and stealing, okay? Witness the choices you are making as you make them, and witness the process from unconscious to conscious. When you are making choices at all, ask yourself two things. What are the consequences of the choice I'm making? Will this choice bring happiness to me and to those around you? If the answer is yes, it's going to bring happiness to you and those around you, it's good karma, it's positive karma. If the consequences of the choices that you are making hurt you or those around you, then make a different choice so that you don't create that karma. Again, if it's coming from your unconscious mind and you have a continuous pattern in your life that's created from the unconscious, you have to look at that and understand and work through that training that you got like a Pavlov dog. Listen to your body, okay? Interestingly, your body tells you a lot, okay? So, for example, last year in December, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I found it very, very quickly. I was a stage 0, and I opted to have a breast reduction as well as a partial mastectomy, and then did radiation. One of the first things that I looked at is, what the hell was I manifesting? I wanted to take personal responsibility for that karma. There is no breast cancer in my family background. So where was that coming from? What was I doing with my own body? How was I creating the manifestation of that? And if you look at Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, which is another must-have book in your spiritual library, you can see the subconscious thought process for things that are created in the body. The subconscious thought process for breast cancer is smother mother. Well, what that means is, as you know, when I'm doing life coaching, I am kind of mothering people. I actually mother my friends. In fact, I mother everybody, and maybe not give enough to myself. So I really have to turn that energy around and allow myself to be better at receiving and not just giving. What we talked about earlier with the 7 spiritual laws on the giving and receiving end. So you have to look at that karma. Whatever the karma is, your body will tell you. If you have tummy aches, if you have trouble digesting things, you're having trouble digesting life. If your knees are bothering you, you're having trouble moving forward. If your shoulders are bothering you, you're feeling heavy burdens, etc. So that's understanding your karma too, okay? So here are 3 things that you can do about past karma. Pay it, which most people do unconsciously. You know, the law of karma says no debt in the universe goes unpaid. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to come back to the earth plane again. I've just about had it here, right? Because there are some real nasty, nasty, nasty things that happen here. Really nasty things, and we have had our fair share of seeing it with the situation politically in this country and all of the, social media and strangers assaulting strangers verbally on Facebook accounts, and it's just, it blows my mind. Doesn't it blow yours? So I just really want to finish all my karma in this lifetime so that I can ascend, so I don't have to come back here, so that I don't have to pay back any more karma. That's what I really want to do. So I hope that you too will look at your karma so that you can figure out how to unconsciously and consciously pay that debt. Transmute or transform your karma to a more desirable experience. This is something we talked about earlier, where you can, reframe your experiences and say, what can I learn from this experience? If you're learning nothing, then you're destined to repeat it. I'm going to say that again. If you are learning nothing, then you are destined to repeat it, whether it be in this lifetime or another. So you have to look back at all of the situations and not be victim to it and say it was that guy's fault, or it was my mother's fault, or my father's fault, or my ex's fault. But where was I in the mix? What responsibility do I take for myself here? That's where you're going to learn and get the reframe, okay? All right. Why is this happening, and what is the message that the universe is giving to me? That's my cancer story. How can I make this experience useful to my fellow human beings? Well, I would like to make my life useful to other human beings, which is why I'm so open about my karmic profile and kind of throw my family under the bus some, because it's important to help people when you can, and I hope that my story helps you. But, you have to look at your own story and process it in a way that you transmute and transform your own karmic profile so that further generations down don't have to suffer for your karma. Become independent of it through meditation. It's kind of like washing cloth washing a dirty cloth in a stream of water. Meditation, meditation, meditation. There I go again. Meditate your karma away. And this is how you apply the law of karma. Witness choice being in the moment. Witness your choices being in the moment. Remember, if you're attached to the outcome of what's here, you're not really living here, and you're not stringing those little pearls of contentment together to follow your bliss. Become consciously aware. Ask 2 questions when making choices: the consequences on yourself and others, and will it bring happiness to those affected by it? And last, ask your heart and body for guidance. Listen. If your body's comfortable, then go ahead. If you feel uncomfortable, pause and see the consequences of your action with your inner vision. This will enable you to make spontaneously correct choices. So I'm going to tell you a little story about a man that I was married to. Walter is his name, and it was 30 years plus ago, and I was studying hypnosis. And while I was studying hypnosis, being a Catholic at the time, I wasn't sure I believed in past lives, but I went ahead and studied how to do past life regression. I do now believe in past lives because of this story. During the regression, I told the person that was hypnotizing me, as we hypnotized each other for learning purposes, that I was married to a brother that was going with the Confederacy and the Civil War, and I was going with the Union. I was very upset with this brother because I really believed that he was politically making a mistake. At any rate, I saw us both on the battlefield. I saw him get shot and killed. A cannonball landed near my leg and blew the bottom of my leg off. And I went home to my farm in Pennsylvania and was pretty depressed that life. And my wife and my kids took care of the farm. So it was not a great life to see. But I told the hypnotherapist that the person that was my brother was Walter, my husband. So I decided to go home and hypnotize him, which I did. And all I said to him was that we had a Civil War incarnation together. Now, you would have to understand that Walter was the type of man that would be wanting to save me from the burning city of Atlanta, right? But he said, we're brothers. You're going with the Union, I'm going with the Confederacy, you're abandoning me, you always abandon me. And that was the karma. Well, P.S., I abandoned him again. I divorced him. And 16 years after the divorce, I had this overwhelming feeling about him. And I private messaged him on Facebook and said, hey, I had this feeling, and did one of your parents die? And while I've got your attention, I want to apologize for any of my, contribution to the demise of our marriage. And he wrote back and said, no, my parents are alive, but I heard your mother died, and I'm sorry about that. I think of you and the children often, and I too am sorry for the demise of our marriage. And that was it. Except that 6 months later, I got a call that he passed away from a heart attack. It wasn't his parents that I was feeling. It was that I was feeling he was going to die. 2 days after he died, he came to me in a dream. He told me, I'm here, I'm okay, I'll see you on the flip side. So that's an example of karma from one life to another. I repeated that pattern. I abandoned him again. And he came to me in a dream to let me know we would see each other yet again, as he was one of my soulmates, knowing that soulmates on this planet don't necessarily mean happily ever after. Sometimes they mean working out karma. See you next time.